What up, what up, what up, everybody? It's your boy Rana out of Houston, Texas. Guys, we are super excited. So I have Burton from PropStream right now. So if you're tuning in, guys, drop your comments below, Listen, I promised you guys we're going to bring the heat. It's here now. Make sure you guys are tuning in. Make sure you're liking it. Make sure you're sharing it. We are now streaming live, not only on Zoom, we're streaming live on Facebook, the Wholesaling Real Estate 101 group. So guys, what up? Tune in. Listen, guys, we're going to go ahead and start the webinar here. I wanted to give a huge shout out to Burton for taking his time out. And, he's one of the big dogs out here with PropStream. So this is huge, right? In this business, data is key. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I believe that without the right data, you're not going to get anywhere, okay? You got to have the right data from death to divorce. You got to have, it's all about data aggregation, in my opinion. And that's the truth. We've been doing this business for quite some time now. And I've been vetting all those guys who claim they've got the right comps and you can run the right comps on their platform. Unfortunately, some guys are falling short, but I finally found those guys here and they're PropStream, okay? So make sure you guys are tuning in. I'm gonna hand it over to Burton. Burton, welcome, man. Well, this is your thing. This is our thing. I just wanted to say welcome, man. Thank you so much for being on here, for the viewers. So go ahead. I'll let you take the platform from here.
Hey, thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me, everyone, and thanks for watching. So for those of you guys that have PropStream, this is going to be some new stuff. We did do a few updates, so I'll be going over that today. For those of you that are just hearing about us or jumping into the real estate industry and you're finding a tough time trying to find leads, that's what we do. For 15 years, we've been collecting data nationwide. That includes MLS. So if you are, like, for example, in Texas, a non-disclosure state, we've been able to circumvent the non-disclosure states like Texas that don't provide sell records, sell amount when a property sells by getting MLS recording information for you. So we're able to give you sold records within 24 to 48 hours after they populate. But not only that, not only is running comps important, but we're also going to give you guys access to over 10 plus different lead types. So whether you're trying to find a cash buyer, a property that just missed its tax payments, a property that tax payments turn into a lien, or a property that just got into foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, free and clear high equity, or you just want to create your own situation, that's what we do extremely well here at PropStream. But enough talk. Let me show you exactly what I mean by sharing my screen over to you guys here. So this is the PropStream platform. When you guys log in for the very first time, what you're going to see is that we're going to capture your IP address and zoom in on your market. So as you guys can see on the screen, I'm located here in Southern California, and this is where we first established our roots back in 2005. But our nationwide aggregation has allowed you to search anywhere in the United States of America to find a lead. Now, it's not that we provide a list, and we've been doing that for 15 years. It's that for the 15 years that we've been doing this, we've been able to find all the best providers of data in every market out there. So it's not just one provider that we're getting data in and giving to you. It's that provider plus all the local sources in there. And we take all of their data and cross-reference it with one another. So we're able to triple, quadruple check these records to make sure if one provider says a property has a lien and the other providers don't, this allows us to really get into the details and see who's right and who's wrong. So essentially, we're scrubbing their list for them. And so not only have we done that for the last 15 years, but we've identified that investors like yourself or anybody with the need of real estate data, not only do they just want a category, but they want the luxury to manipulate that category. To be able to create your own level of motivation is pinnacle in this industry. Or to suppress certain categories is also pinnacle in this industry. So you might be trying to market to pre-foreclosures and you realize the pre-foreclosures are very competitive in your market. Well, did you know in our platform you can look for, let's say, a tax lien that has $50,000 recorded on a property, but it's not yet in pre-foreclosure? So while all of your competition is trying to get into pre-foreclosures, you're circumventing them by finding a tax lien, the very high tax lien, but the owner hasn't gotten their default yet or their trustee sale recorded yet. That's what we do. We give you the ability to essentially control and manipulate that data. So let me show you a perfect example of how I can do that. So Ron, you said you're in Houston, Texas. I'm going to go ahead and search Houston, Texas.
H-Town. Yes, we are in Houston.
And when I search Houston, Texas, what we're going to do is right off the bat give you all the records that we've collected in Houston since our foundation. So it's loading because Houston is a huge area, but you have access to 1.9 million property records. This is MLS records, foreclosures, auctions, pre-foreclosures, bank-owned, cash buyers, lien, vacant properties, high equity, divorce. Actually, let me show you all the categories you have access to. So you have on market, which is MLS, vacant, which is USPS data. Now, I do want to warn everyone about vacant. A lot of people don't realize that the vacant listings from anybody that's providing it comes from the Postal Service. And what it really represents is just a property not answering their mail for about 3 to 4 weeks or more. So here's the challenge with that. It could be a recently sold property, right? So if I were to, for example, choose vacant properties in Houston, here are my 27,000 results. Unfortunately, the first few are recently sold. You got to remember, the mail carrier is not a real estate investor. They're not looking into county records. All they know is, hey, this address hasn't been answering the mail for 3 weeks. I'm going to put them on our vacant list, and then we go get that vacant list, right? So you got to understand that your definition of vacant as a real estate investor is not the same definition as a mail carrier or a mail woman, right? So you want to go in our system, and you have the ability to adjust the ownership info. So I'm looking for a vacant property with the last sell date before December of, let's say, 2000. Let me go down a little bit here. Let's go to, actually, let me do it here. This is a little bit easier. Years of ownership, 6 years or more. So go through the vacant list. Go through the list of people not answering their mail, but only show me the ones that have owned the property for 6 years or more. And now my results are properties that sold in 2013 or before. So we don't do the work for you, right? Like we don't want to tell you what to do, right? The idea is here's all the data, all the raw data, but here's this elaborate filtering system that will give you access to essentially control it. Now, if you're not familiar with the vacant listings and you come in here and you don't adjust years of ownership, yes, you are going to come across a situation where you're going to be calling someone who just bought a property. They're not going to be interested in what you have to offer. So you guys got to understand, we're not doing the work for you, right? If we do the work for you, then you're never going to learn how this data thing works. So wanted to specify vacant. We have liens. These are all involuntary liens, and the lien options that you have are tax liens, HOA liens, mechanical, utility, solar, child support liens, other like someone not paying child support. So I like to think of this as the pre-foreclosure. So I can go into our platform and say, hey, show me all the people that have a tax lien and a child support lien in Texas, and they're not in pre-foreclosure yet, and they're off market, and they're owned by an individual. So I'm not calling these LLCs or corporation. And this person has owned their property for 7 years. So here are 2,800 individuals with a tax lien, either child support or tax lien, off market, not in pre-foreclosure yet. So if I'm able to get to them now, we can save them from going into foreclosure, right? So that's the idea of our system is, again, suppressing data, which I just showed you right now, is pinnacle because I can wait for these 2,800 records to then go into next month's pre-foreclosure and then compete with everybody else, or I can make contact now and then hopefully get a contract signed well before these homeowners go into pre-foreclosure. So that is how the lien system works there. And let me go ahead and uncheck this. And so we're no longer suppressing records. Go ahead and remove that. And the next category we have are your pre-foreclosures. Now, do note pre-foreclosures, we will update them within 24 to 48 hours of their release. So do note that, release. Every county is different. No two counties release every single day or every single business day, clearly. Some counties release once a month. Some parts of Texas you guys are familiar with. You guys do auctions usually at the beginning of every Tuesday of the first of the month. Other states, other counties, we do them either every day or every weekend. So you have to know and understand that. If I'm in California and I don't understand how Texas works, and I go to Texas and I'm starting looking for pre-foreclosures, I might get upset because I'm going to look at the system and say, hey, I'm not getting daily updates in Texas. And that's because there isn't going to be daily updates in Texas. So you got to understand how this thing works. So pre-foreclosures are your properties facing a foreclosure. Auctions are properties that have an auction assigned to it, so your notices of trustees. Bank-owned or REOs, bank-owned properties, so after the property fails to go up for auction. Cash buyers, all the properties bought in cash by an individual, an LLC, or both. You have high equity, properties that have 100,000 or more in equity or 50% or more in equity. You guys are probably wondering, how do you guys know that information? When we actually pull a property's detail, which this is what you see here, we'll include photos for you and whatnot, but in the mortgage transaction, we actually pay for mortgage information. So not only is data aggregation our thing, it's mortgage aggregation, it's title aggregation, it's all the data that ties into a homeowner. So in this situation, we're able to show you all the previous mortgages that the previous homeowner had, and you're going to be able to see all the transactions within that. And you can even see things in the past. So here's a previous owner back in 2014 and what they did. They did an FHA, and so you get to look into the history. But we do show you the current mortgage that's on the property, the loan amount, loan term, when it was recorded. And so we use these variables and we calculate the balance for you, right? So that's how we're able to determine what the mortgage balance is. And then with that information, we do a reverse calculation. And so based on the mortgage balance and the ARV of the property, the difference is the equity, correct? So if the difference is 50% or more of the property's value, or flat out 100,000 or more, it's what we would consider a high equity property. The next category is free and clear, properties that have no mortgages assigned to them. We also have bankruptcy records for you to go through, Chapter 13s, Chapter 7s, divorce records, and then our new 3, tax delinquencies. So let me kind of clear this up. So we've collected payroll records, payroll tax records for quite some time now. And what this is that this is a list that just comes out once a year, and it's just a list that shows people not paying their taxes on time. That's it. It's not a lien, it's not a default. All it is here's a list of individuals, properties that did not pay their taxes on time. So why did we release it? Well, in this game, it's starting to get obviously very competitive. So we wanted to give everybody the early birds notice as soon as possible. So let's talk about the timeline on how this whole thing works. So a property owner doesn't pay their taxes. They're delinquent. After continuing that behavior, that delinquency then turns into a what? A tax lien. If you don't pay off your liens, what happens? That lien turns into a pre-foreclosure. So prior to this update, we only gave you the pre-foreclosures and the liens. And so now we figured, you know what, let's just give you the list of delinquencies. So do note that this list does come out only once a year in most markets. What we don't know if someone's paid off that delinquency the month later. So we can release the list in January. Someone could have paid it in February. We don't know that until the following year, because in the following year, when we get the next payroll, that address is no longer on the list. Remember, it's a numbers game. We don't know whether these people have paid their pre-foreclosure debt or not, or their tax lien before we call them or not. Same with their delinquencies. So just know that this only gets updated once a year. Best way to know when your roll comes out is call your county. They'll let you know when they release their tax roll. And we usually will update that within 24 to 40 hours of that release. Flippers, very new category. Flippers is a logic that we included, and what this is a property owner that has owned a property for less than 24 months and is now listing the property back on the market. So if I were to click on one of these examples, it lets me know that this property was owned for 5 months and is now being listed back on the market. And so it's being listed as 259 prior purchase. We don't have that. Oh, this is Texas, so we don't have that information, but we do know the behavior. We know that it was bought 5 months ago, and we can see who bought it. And oh yeah, an investment LLC. Could you see there? We have their address. So they bought it 5 months ago, and now they're listing it back on the market. And the new update too is we have listing details for you. So we obviously, again, have done this for 15 years. Huge relationship with realtors and brokers nationwide. So not only are we letting you know, hey, here's a property that's been listed, but we're giving you the listing history. You can see the original listing date all up until the point where it's been relisted, or if it failed or withdrew, as you can see here. So we're going to show you everything that's been happening. All the MLS details are now just being given to you. So again, without having a real estate license, I know the MLS history of this property, and we can go from there. So
and that's huge, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's huge, especially for a lot of the wholesalers that are starting out new. You know, we always recommend people to build relationships with realtors. But as soon as this came along, man, it's always great to have, you know, especially with the new law that they passed now with pocket listings, because my first wholesale deal was a pocket listing from a realtor. Now we can't even get those anymore. So this is a huge benefit, you know, especially having that data at your fingertips. And I love that new Flipper feature. I had no idea about it. So
yeah, and Ron, you nailed it right on the head. Look how important this information is, right? Guys, look how important it is. In August, it was listed at 269. August, there was a price withdrawn. And 4 days later, the listing was withdrawn because someone had bought it down. So we're able to see price adjustments. We're able to see if someone went from a higher price down to a lower price, and then that lower price is what they sat on. Now, if we caught that back in August, then we would have been able to give them that lower price, either in cash and whatnot. And look at the property, guys. We give you the photos. This would have been an amazing cash flow opportunity if we saw that behavior, if we saw that, okay, it's too high, and so the owner is willing to negotiate a lower price. How important is that? Again, having that information, and we're not telling you what to look for. We're just giving you everything that we've collected, again, and built that relationship across the board for 15 years. Okay, guys? So wanted to show you guys that, but that is our flippers list. These are, again, properties that were bought and owned for less than 24 months, and they're back on the market again.
That's amazing. If I can chime in into that a little bit. So you guys give the name of the agent and what agency they're with. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So when I click on that property, I know the corporation that bought it.
Yeah.
And when I go to the MLS details, listing price, and then I also can see the agent's information, office name, phone number. Sometimes you'll get the email, listing history, and then we also give you the transaction history, so you can see the open loan.
All the wholesalers that are watching out there right now, one of the tips that I can give you guys is what we use also is if we have a property in zip code. What zip code is this in?
This property is in the zip code
77055. So if we have a property in 77055, we actually have realtors who bring us buyers also. So we'll call up the realtor and say, hey, you know, we've noticed that you had a client who transacted in this area not too long ago. We've got a property under contract. We want to see if your client would like to purchase another one. Boom, now you got a buyer. There you go, guys. That is a huge nugget.
Absolutely, and that was a logic that we included because, again, we talk to investors. You see me a lot. So I have the luxury of weeding through all the people that need data, from lenders, brokers, real estate agents, wholesalers, fix and flippers, contractors, plumbers, I mean, you name it. A lot of people use PropStream, not just for flipping properties, but to find a lead. Perfect example, there was a guy that was a contractor using our platform. He was just looking for properties that were built in 1980, 1990, 1980 to 1990, properties that had, you know, 20, 30-year-old roofs, owned by an individual, maybe for about 7 years or more. So with our system, you can create your own categories, no problem there. But last list that we created was failed listings. So we had to introduce a logic, a very hard one for that matter, because this one requires MLS and county records to communicate with one another, which, surprise, they don't. We had to do that. So this one is very dear to my heart because this one did relieve a lot of headaches. Failed listings. So first off, let me clear what failed listings are. A lot of investors like to think of this as the expired listings, and yes, that may be true, but a failed listings could be three things, as you guys saw, right? In the history, it could be someone wanted to do a price adjustment, so it failed, and then it was relisted again. Someone could have violated the terms of the contract when selling the house, maybe like trying to find a backdoor buyer, and so it failed. Agent took it off. Or it lasted on the market for an absolutely long time, right? Expired and it failed. So failed listings, that's what really represents. Agents sometimes don't even understand what an expired listings is, but all they know is that failed listings is that. And I want to explain that to you guys. So we know that you guys are looking for an expired listing, right? So we want to give that to you, but we don't know your market threshold. Some markets list properties for 3 months. Some markets list them for 4 months. The average is usually 6 months. But we might be dealing with a barn or a sky rise, and so that could be 2 years, right? So what we had to do was introduce a logic that took a real deep dive on the county records, the deed of the property, the listing records, and make sure that when we give you the failed listings, here's what the logic is. This is a homeowner who owned the property, then listed with the MLS. It lasted on the market for whoever knows how long, and then it failed. It was taken off the market, but the property is still owned by the original owner. And here's why that's highly important. In the previous version, what most people were doing was they were looking for a failed listing. And let's say a failed listing that was in the last 6 months, July 1st or so. They would click on a property and say, oh, it failed. But then they would go to the transaction history and say, but it recently sold. How did it fail if it just recently sold, right? And so in our previous version, there was a challenge that now a smart investor or a person using our platform would have realized, oh yeah, I can control the data. So in that situation, what they would have done is said, okay, I want a failed listing, but it still has 4 years of ownership, right? So here are properties that failed this year, but they're still in the same ownership of the previous owner, right? But a lot of people didn't realize that, right? They assume that the data automatically communicate, and they don't. Remember, guys, MLS and county records do not communicate. It's guys like us, the aggregators, that have to do that for you. So to make your life easier, when I search a county and instead of having to do the manual labor, you could just go to failed listing, and what that shows you is that a property was listed by an individual. So this property was listed, oh, see, not available from the county, but we can get their information here. So this property was listed by the individual, the McKenzies, it looks like. It was on the market. It failed after 149 days. And if you go to the transaction history, there's been no change of hands. So it's still under the same ownership. So what does that let me know, or any investors know? McKenzie's tried to sell their house and they couldn't successfully do it. McKenzie's probably need a phone call to see if there's any other solutions that we can help them with, right? So that logic, very dear to my heart, because it was a hard one. We had to scrutinize all the county records, and again, in some areas you don't get county records, and so now I have to go into the mortgage and transaction history to convert that, right? So again, perfect example, property details, county records. We don't know the owner's name, but I can go to the transaction history because that's separate data, and I already know the owner's name. And they've, Marcus and Elizabeth, they've owned this property for 4 years. Again, they tried to list it. Here's the listing history, and it was withdrawn. We're giving you all the data that we've done. And again, we do it differently, guys. I don't know how I can emphasize it.
This is insane because we used to previously, I'm even guilty of it. I used to pay just to go and like skip trades just to see who even the owner was. and then go and skip trace them. So you're giving everything here. It just blows my mind, man.
And that's
how
what
easy you guys are making it. You guys are making us wholesalers lazy. Don't do it.
I know, right? We're trying not to, but hey, at the end of the day, we need to understand the entire story before we start making that first phone call, before we send out that postcard, before we do that ring the Joy job.
Speed to lead. That's
absolutely. And we have a firm strategy here. Market smarter, not harder. Right? You're going to save money when you market smarter and not harder. So again, we understand that in like Texas non-disclosure, county doesn't give us information. So we are able to circumvent that because we have other sources. We work with insurance companies. We work with this and that. I mean, you guys would be surprised how much money we spend here at PropStream in terms of the data that we buy nationwide. Guys, we're not just in Texas. I'm only doing Texas because Ron, my guy here, you know, I wanted to make sure we're able to show the audience in Texas. But this information is nationwide. As a matter of fact, since we're in Texas, so we get this a lot. People are like, well, you know what, your estimated value is wrong. And absolutely it is in Texas because, again, it's non-disclosure. So when you go to a property in Texas now and you look at the last prior sale, we're going to let you know it's an estimate because a lot of people didn't realize that in Texas non-disclosure, you know, they thought the sale that they got from our records. And let me just be honest with you. In the past, we didn't really let people know as estimate. We assumed that people understood that we got that information from a title company or an attorney. Bad mistake on our end. So we wanted to pretty much let everybody know, hey, when you're in a non-disclosure state and you see the last and prior sale, it's an estimate. So how do we run comps on an area that has an estimate? When you go to the comparables and nearby listings, again, we're going to give you all the data. You get to control your own comps. So I have to understand, being an investor in a non-disclosure state, Texas, New Mexico, Utah, that I cannot use public records anymore. As a matter of fact, if you're in a non-disclosure state and you're listening to me right now, ignore that first box. Just absolutely don't use it at all. What you want to do is you want to go over to the MLS Comps. And the reason why you want to go to the MLS Comps is because MLS is not the same data as county records. And again, through our 15 years of working with these brokers nationwide, we're able to get not only listing history, agent information, photos, but we're also able to get the sale amount on that. So in a non-disclosure state, I'm not going to be using public records. I'm going to go to MLS Comps, and I'll give you a perfect example. Here's a property, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. So I'm going to use the filter down below and say, okay, I want all the MLS Comps, let's say in the last 6 months. I want the 3-bedroom minimum. I can cap it out by putting 3 max, so it only shows me that. Bathrooms, 3. Minimum, I can do 4 if I wanted to maybe convert that 0.5 into a 4th one. I can apply year built, square footage. You can get really granular if you want. MLS status, so by default, it's sold. Now, reason why we're giving you this option, if you take real estate courses, if you take like appraisal classes, they teach you to not only use sold records, but to potentially use active records, right? And here's a perfect example. If 2 properties are identical and literally identical to one another, built same year, same square footage, everything, and property A is being listed for $320, what can we logically conclude that property B would be listed for, right? So we not only give you sold records, but you can actually look at active records and you can say, okay, well, since I know the sold records in the last 30 days, gee, what are properties being listed today for? And so now you can go into the active listings, and we're going to show you last public, again, public recorded sale, but you want to ignore that. What you want to do is actually scroll over and you want to look at the MLS amount, because that is the separate. As a matter of fact, you can drag it to the very front. Now we're going to let you control that. So here's a property that's being listed for $389,900. Why is it being listed? Oh, let me click on the photo and see why. So we're going to give you the photos of that property if it's available. In this case, it's a condominium, so they haven't uploaded it just yet, but let's see if this one has it. Yep, there we go. So we're going to give you photos if made available, so you guys can get an understanding of why that property was listed or sold. So you can see active listings, or by default, sold listings. New update is you can now control the class. So you can say, I want a single family comp. I want a residential single family comp. The reason why we did this is in the past, When we, let's say, pulled up a condominium, we would show you all the sold records around that, except for commercial, of course. So you would see all the residential class, and unfortunately, residential has all of these categories. So we went through all of the records nationwide and looked at all of the classifications that a property could be in and said, okay, well, this is what they could end up boiling under. So now you have control of that. Maybe you want a residential single family, or maybe you want a residential apartment that's sold around this property. So you have now control of the type of comps at a granular level. So in this example, 6 months back, 3 bedrooms, 3 to 4 bathrooms, residential single family sold. Here are my results. I can now scroll, get the MLS amount, put it up front. Actually, let's do a side-by-side comparison here. So as you can see, public records are a lot different than county records. So you got to be careful with that, and then photos are available too. So here's how you ultimately want to run comps now. Pay attention to the MLS amount. If you want to print out this comp, all you have to do is go to the details of that comp. We're going to open up a separate tab for you and just hit the print button at the very top. Again, if I'm in the details of this comp, the dashboard lets me know, oh, hey, that was an estimate, but the MLS details lets me know the true amount that's sold. Now, how do I get this comp on a piece of paper? Hit that print button. You're going to get your PDF file. Well, when it comes, it's loading up. There it is. And so here is that property. And it lets my investors know, hey, public record, so I can get a marker, cross that out, because I'm really just looking for the MLS sold record here.
You know, that's powerful, because the number one question an investor, you know, now my company and myself are to a point where investors really don't even ask us, how did you get to that number? But I remember when I first started out being a new wholesaler, they would be like, well, what addresses did you comp, right? Now you can just create a PDF, throw it into Google Docs, and there you go. It's right. Yep. I mean, you guys are really making the wholesaler lazy here. And I'm just noticing that. This is crazy. I wish I had 2 years back, Burton.
Sorry, man, but yeah, that's what we love to do. We like to really play with the data here. It's not data collection, and it's really massaging the data. It's what can we do with the data? What logics are out there? And we really listen to you guys. Like I can't emphasize that enough. For the last 7 years that I've been working for PropStream, this will be my 8th year coming up. That was the one thing that I really loved. And trust me, when I say I've been working here for 8 years, I started at the bottom. I was tech support. I used to help people install our software version on their old Windows XP computer. And
so you were the guy who was like, "Thank you for calling PropStream."
Yeah, pretty much, man. Like, yeah, and I'm Filipino, so you might have thought I was like a virtual assistant or something, you know. So I help people at that time install. But we've always been a very tight-knit company. We're not a huge corporation. We have grown dramatically in the last few years, but the one element that we've always listened or that we're proud of is we listen to people. We're not perfect. Don't let me. You're never going to hear us say that we're perfect. As a matter of fact, we don't even like to mention, like, when people try to say, oh, well, who's better, you or them? I don't even like to answer that question. A lot of people like to pin us up against other data aggregators, and look, I'm never going to answer that question, because at the end of the day, it's how we all like present that data and the philosophy and what we're doing with that data, right? Some will just give you the category and they'll, you know, pull 1,000 pre-foreclosures and sell it to you, and they won't look any deeper into those records. Some will, and then that's all they provide, and they don't cross-reference it with MLS records. So again, we don't like to really throw anybody under the bus, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to help you guys. We're all trying to get data and provide it to you guys, but we do it differently, right? Now,
the right value, you know what I mean? The reason why I even decided to, you know, go jump on board with PropStream is because I was like, man, this is insane. Like, I would be I'd be calling realtors up when I was using other platforms and be like, can you double check this comp for me? Sometimes, you know, you're just unsure, but the data doesn't lie. If people ask you, are you better than someone else? I just tell them, man, you got to test it out for yourself. And this is why we're giving everyone a free 7-day trial period to go out and test it out. I have a question here, and we're going to do questions at the end. We're getting bombarded with questions. My inbox is getting, I don't know why people like to just chat me inbox and keep it private, but that's fine. You know, they're asking me like, hey, you know, is the 7-day trial holding back anything? Do you guys hold any information back?
Yeah, we do. The only limitation that you have on the trial period is just you get to only download 50 properties out of our records. Now, if you're a full subscriber, we give you 10,000 every month. But in the trial period, no, there's nothing held back. You can actually, the philosophy with PropStream is that we want you to go through the records first. So what you guys just saw me do this entire time going through these records never counted against my export limit. The only time it does is if I start checking off the ones I really want and add it to a list. That's when it counts. So again, I went through like 6 different property records as I was going through those different categories. Not one of them counted against my limit. So in your trial period, that also applies. In your trial period, you can go through the 1.9 million records in Houston, Texas, if you want, one at a time, and that will never count against you. But if you start saving them, if you're a trial user, you only get 50. If you're an official subscriber, 10,000, right? So again, market smarter, not harder. If you go into our platform and say, okay, I want all the vacant listings, and you check them all off and save them, then you just hit your limit, granted. And that, again, bad idea because you didn't filter the years of ownership. So now half of maybe a quarter of your list is bad results. So what you, again, want to do is market smarter and not harder. Go into our filter and create your own situation. So have fun with the data, guys. And the last thing I'm going to leave you guys off with is, and Ron brought it up, is when you are in our platform, don't just be in the mindset that you need to find a list. I've worked with enough investors nationwide to finally understand that there is no like motivated, there's no golden goose egg, right? So as I talk to an investor, a fix and flipper, and I say, hey, what type of leads are you looking for? Oh, they'll say vacant, non-owner occupied with a lot of equity. But then when I talk to an investor that does subject twos or lease options, their leads are different. Oh, we look for properties with a high loan to value ratio, or it was active on the market. And it's different for each. Now, if I talk to an agent, oh, we just want off-market properties, or we're looking for buyers, lenders, different story, contractors, different story. So here's the secret, guys. You want to know what a lead is? It's a homeowner in a predicament. Whatever your category of investment is, if you do fix and flipping, then that predicament is a distressed property owner with equity, right? And you get to control the level of motivation. So our system lets you go into this filter and literally control your category. So if I'm thinking I want a tired landlord, okay, I want a non-owner occupied property that either has a tenant in it or it's vacant, no tenants. It's a single family residential property. It's off market. It's not in foreclosure. So I'm staying away from my competition, you guys. It's owned by an individual for 15 years, has no liens, no divorce or bankruptcy. I'm sorry, I'm going to suppress no liens, no divorce or bankruptcy. So it's a clean title. And the equity amount on this property is hovering in the 70% or more. So 401 properties. Are you guys catching on what I did? I created a tired landlord list. These are 401 properties that are not owned by the property. So it's a non-owner occupied property. The owner doesn't live there.
Hold on. I got to take a photo of that, show my COO. Hold on. That's the one we're going to do now. I appreciate you giving that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
You need to take a screenshot of what he just did. This is mind-blowing. I just learned something new on this, so I'm sorry, Barry, go on.
No, Ron, thank you for emphasizing that, because, again, I didn't choose a category. I went in the system and I said, okay, what is a tired landlord? In my book, a tired landlord is just someone that doesn't own their property, that's been renting out their property for 15 years or more. That's my threshold. It could be 7 years. It could be 8 years. It could be 10 years. You control it. But what I'm not only doing is not only looking for the year and the fact that it's an individual and it's non-owner occupied, but I'm cross-referencing U.S. postal data. So no one's answering mail means it's available. There's no tenant right now. This homeowner is probably stressing out. I went in the MLS and said, I need it off market. Or I can say, you know what? It's off market because it failed recently. So here's a tired landlord that tried to list it as a rental perhaps recently, and it failed. Nobody wanted to buy it at that listing price. So now not only is it a non-owner occupied that went on the market and failed, but now the homeowner is even more stressed because he thought selling it was the solution. Not the case at that point, right? So having the ability to go in here and create your own predicament without even choosing a list. And after I went through all of that, guys, 401 tired landlords. And here is the cool new feature that we added, the absentee owner location. So we can drive the headache even more. We can say, hey, I want a local non-owner occupied buyer, or an out of county non-owner occupied, or a out of state. So here's a tired landlord that's in a whole different state. There's 12 of them in your market right now that have a property that's vacated and they don't even live in the same state. So they're probably trying to deal with a property management group or an agent in the market, or maybe you can call them and see if you can find a tenant subject twos. I don't know, maybe they're just going to want to let go of their portfolios in Texas. Guys, I'm just giving these ideas, simply controlling the data, just being able to sit here and come up with a predicament. Here's a unique one I saw. This one, I'm going to give to you guys and I'm going to let it go. I saw an investor do this and I was mind blown. I think the guy buys notes, just to lay that out there. But he was looking for an owner occupied property that was occupied, single family, owned by, it's off market, it wasn't facing foreclosure, but it was owned by an individual, let's say for 5 years or more. Didn't have a lien, a bankruptcy, or divorce yet. But the property was upside down. So it was upside down, let's say 120%, right? But with our new update, which is the mortgage information section, what he then did was he said, okay, it's upside down, but there's 2 mortgages. And that first mortgage still has equity in it. Let's say 30 to 70%. So guys, I don't know if you saw what I'm doing. So we have 104 properties that are technically upside down in your market, but that first mortgage has equity in it. So only one of the 2 mortgages is defaulted on. So I believe this man was buying notes. So he would, I believe, buy the second note on the property and then negotiate the homeowner on the first, right? Try to get it as low as possible because there's still equity on that property. So I'm going to leave that with you guys there. But yeah, guys, that is the power of manipulating data. That's what we do. Again, we are a data aggregator. We do provide categories you can go through and refine, but just know that's not what we've been doing for 15 years. Like behind the scenes, we've been actually thinking about how we can leverage all this data and manipulate it across one another, across these different databases that they don't do normally into our platform, so you have full control. And then just to throw the things on the side, you have the ability to skip trace any of the records that you pull in our platform. We have tier pricing. It's really cheap for you guys. We even have a campaign section, so you can then create a website for a campaign. It's a landing page for your buyers or your distressed homeowners. You can send postcards. Those are tiered price. We have ringless voicemails as well, email marketing. And I'm going to leave you guys off with this, Ron. If it's okay, can I do an announcement on something that we're working on?
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. We already brought them all the heat. I don't know if they can, you know, I don't know if they can handle it. What you got?
So this is what I think is going to be the mind-blowing thing of our industry. So you heard me earlier. We don't like to compete with others. We really hate answering that question when people call in. But here's the reality. Why do people ask that question? The reason why someone calls PropStream and says, hey, what's the difference between you and them? Is because that individual is really trying to look for the best data possible. Could you agree with me on that, Ron?
100%. 100%.
So what if in the reality of things, we can take both records and put them together? And that's what we're going to be releasing very soon, guys. It's our new list management. We understand that some of you guys have lists from other providers or you're using other providers, and we understand that some of these providers have records that we don't, and we have records that they don't. So what if you can import that into PropStream and then put them all together, and then we spit it back out to you with everything, all of our records, all of their records, all in once. and that is our list management. You'll be able to import a list from any other service out there into our platform, and we're going to give you all of our data. We're going to instantly update that list. So let's think of a situation here. Let's say in my desktop, which I have a high equity list that I bought from, let's say, ListSource in 2017. I love ListSource, by the way. I use them every month. But let's say I bought a list from them in 2017. I had, I marketed to it, got a few leads, whatnot, but it's been sitting there for 2 years. I can either delete it and repurchase that list, or with our new feature, we'll be able to bring that list and import it into PropStream, and we're going to update all the sale records and mortgage records and county records, and we're going to tie in all of our other records to that list. So when I bring in that 2-year-old high equity list into PropStream will now let me know how many of them are on market or have failed or have a bankruptcy or have a lien or have an auction or is free and clear now or whatever the case is. That is what we're going to do. And I strongly, firmly believe not only is the list management thing a big thing for us, this is going to, again, help people identify what leads they still need to be marketing to, what leads they no longer need to be marketing to, and then we're going to have an alert system for you guys. As you can see here, you can set up, essentially, it will monitor and refresh your lists, and then you can set up rules. So you can say, hey, I'm creating a filter that's high equity with a pre-foreclosure and bankruptcy. In the event any of these properties no longer fit those 3 categories, I want you to move it into trash, or I want you to migrate into a different list. So you can now, in this new version that's coming out, we're going to allow you to set up rules instantaneously. That also applies to records coming in. So as new records come in, if it fits your criteria, you can set up a rule and say, hey, as property updates are coming in my market, if a property meets these criteria, please automatically move them into this list. So we are really, again, big on working with the data to give you guys the most accurate, freshest data, with the understanding that we're not the only data aggregators out there. So going forward, when this gets released, hopefully the beginning of the year, bring everything on over, guys. Let us help you, help them, whatever the case is. Again, you're never going to see us try to pin heads with others. We don't. I don't know why. If you hear some, they'd like to do. Great. Hey, it's a compliment to us. You know what I mean? Imitation is a form of flattery. So if you got to, talk about PropStream, go ahead. But we're never going to go back and say otherwise. It's just not what we do. It really isn't. That's just not our philosophy. Our philosophy is the focus is on you guys. It's not trying to compete with these other people. If they want to compete, great. We're just going to stay out of it. Our goal is strictly focused on the people that are in the real estate industry and how we can help them with the data. Again, with the realization that we're not the only one out there. So when list management comes in, guys, bring your data over. Let's give you what we have that they didn't have. And again, you might have, like, perfect example, we don't have probates yet. A lot of people use our system to get the records on probates, right? So unfortunately, if you had like a list of 100 probates, you had to type in the addresses one by one by one. No longer going to be the case. So if you have a list of probates, you can upload that. When the list management comes in, boom, all of our records are there. And now you can create your marketing list and start campaigning and skip tracing it instantaneously. So Ron, thanks for letting me announce that. We do have that coming out, and then we have our mobile app finally coming out soon, guys. We're looking for, we're anticipating
I've been waiting for the mobile
release.
app.
You tell me, man. I've been all over it. So Q2 is our anticipated release on that, assuming testing and everything goes well. We do have a selected audience that's going to be testing that. So we're just getting feedback. Our developers are honing in on the little kinks in there. But it won't be just something that you go out and find properties. Take my word on it. This app of ours will have some really cool elements to it. And again, guys, I mean, it's not just here's a mobile app, but it's going to tie in all these records that we have to that device of yours. So as you're going out and looking at these properties, all that data I showed you, all the tying of records, that will also be at the power of your hand in the near future. So look out for that, guys. And thank you, Ron, for letting me announce that. And that's pretty much it, guys. I know that some of you guys have used PropStream or are not familiar with it yet. I hope this really kind of shed some light on what we've done here for the last 15 years, especially in the last 5 years with the data manipulation, data suppression, and trying to tie in all these records together, and then the relationship that we've worked with all these data aggregators nationwide, data providers nationwide, to give you the fastest frequency. And we're not talking live data. I mean, that's never going to really happen, only because no two formats are the same. When something gets released, typically it takes 24 to 40 hours for our team to convert the format, but then we also have to tie in all the other records, right? An agent can give us a listing today. That agent doesn't realize there's a lien on the property. So when we put it in our system, MLS details, lien details go side by side. So that way you know both information that's happening on that property. So thank you guys for your time. And Ron, thank you. I mean, I'm here for a few minutes if you guys have any questions about our platform.
Sure, yeah, we've got some Q&As here. Let me go ahead and pull them up. My inbox was flooding, so let's go ahead and do this. Of course, so someone is asking how much is PropStream, or how much is they're going through runmycomps.com. Is there a special pricing for people in that platform?
Yeah, so normally on our website it's $99. Please don't sign up directly. Ron has a link, runmycomps.com. You guys will get his price of $97 a month with a 7-day trial. So again, in the trial, you guys get unlimited data searches. Again, market smarter, so go through the records first, filter them, run your comps. If you're non-disclosure, just use the MLS part. As you're qualifying the leads, then you get to check off the ones you want and save it. Again, trial period users get 50 properties. Once you're an official subscriber, you'll get 10,000 records on a monthly basis. So every month that resets, you'll get another 10,000, and it's nationwide data. I mean, if you are focusing on your market, you might cap out after a few months, but if you guys are starting to scale, go into different markets, or just looking for all the records in a county, all the buyers in a county, trust me, I'm definitely sure you'll be able to hit in the high 10. If you need more, call customer support. We do have higher tiers for people that are working in teams or an investment firm that's out there listening to me. Just let us know. Support at PropStream.com. Say, hey, Ron referred it, except our team does a little bit more. We would definitely make sure that you guys are taken care of as well.
That's awesome. So are we, that's another question. So someone asked, 10,000 is the limit, or are you, can we do more? Because I had that question coming in also, right? Because last month alone, we pulled 100,000 leads, and probably about 80% of that was through Prop, just to kind of test you guys out and stuff like that. So, is that the cap?
No, actually, we have different tiers. So we not only have different tiers, but we have a booster option. So I'm going to show you guys what I mean. Just understand you're never going to get what you're about to see right now. So don't call and ask for it. It's never going to happen. But when you go to your profile page, here at the top, you'll see your export limit. You're never going to get that, guys. So I know I have a $500,000. Again, that's just my account. You guys will never have that option. So don't call in asking, I want a $500,000 record. You're never going to get it. But what I wanted to show you guys is the increased limit. So let's say at the end of the month or near the end of the month, I hit my 10,000. You have two options, really. If it's something that's going to constantly happen again and again, you're best to call customer support and ask for the tier up. So we have 4-tier packages, and I'll go through the pricing. So the first tier is the base value, $97 a month. You'll get 10,000 leads every month. The second tier is $197 a month, and you'll get 25,000 records a month. The third tier is $397 a month, and you'll get 50,000 records a month. And the last tier is $597 a month, and you'll get 100,000 records a month. So that's the most that we offer to the public. Now, let's say I'm in the 10,000 tier. I don't need to upgrade. All I need is just a few more buyers I need to market this property to. So in the increased limit option, you can actually purchase an additional 2,500 or 5,000 for the remainder of the month. So that's the most important part, remainder of the month. We do not carry over your data. So if I use all my 10,000, there's 2 days left. I can either wait the 2 days and wait for the reset, or if I gotta have the leads now, I can go in here and purchase the 2,500 instantaneously. But if I don't use that 2,500 in the next 2 days, I will lose them the following month. So again, guys, we don't carry over data. Understand that. You guys are probably wondering why. It's just a legal thing. So you will lose your data if you don't use it, okay? So make sure you take advantage of that. Get familiar with the system, look at different markets, understand how much your team might need to use. Remember, it's a numbers game, so 10,000, again, may not be enough for you guys. So if you do call in, hey, Ron recommended me, we need that tier 2, we need that tier 3, or whatever tier that you guys need, okay, guys? So yeah, we do have that option for you guys.
So we need that Rana package.
There you go.
The Rana special. So cool. And then I had a question personally. Now, do you guys also, you know, are we able to stack lists? Because I don't know if we went through that.
Yeah, actually you can. That was in the filtering section. So for example, we can look for, here, perfect example here. We can go to Houston and look for a pre-foreclosure. Owner occupied, they're answering their mail, and then we can go to any other category down below. So I'm looking for a pre-foreclosure, but not just any pre-foreclosure, one that I know is not going to be able to pay that. How do I know? Because it has an active bankruptcy as well on that property. And then I can play with the bankruptcy recording date and so forth. So yeah, you can definitely stack all of our categories together. Just be absolutely careful. I mean, being granular again means you're really finding these niche categories, and when you do that, your results do get a lot less. I mean, just pre-foreclosure bankruptcies, we got rid of 90%, right? If we do pre-foreclosures bankruptcy, and unfortunately the homeowners are also facing a divorce, your records can then really go down to there's one property facing that certain situation. So just understand the more layers that you apply, the lesser and lesser your results could potentially become.
Absolutely. So one of the, you know, I believe in targeting, you know, highly targeted marketing lists. And, you know, a testimony that I have with PropStream is that I'm able to pull those high equity absentee owner lists. So that's a nugget, guys. If you guys are, you know, pulling a list and you want to know what type of list to pull, we love pulling high equity non-owner occupied lists, and PropStream always delivers. I mean, it's nuts. I love it. You know, we go back to, I would say go back to 1980. So now we're getting into like the secrets, right? Like, hey, what do I use to pull? So I'm just giving my testimony of what we use. We go 1980 or earlier. We make sure it has a little bit above at least 30% equity, okay? So, and then we do, oh, look at you, you're already pulling the list. So, okay, perfect. And then what was the last criteria? We just recently pulled a list with you guys. I kind of went over that with you, but that's mainly the criteria is non-owner occupied, high equity, 1980 or newer, 30% or more equity. And we want to make sure that we're targeting that specific list also, which has worked wonders for us. So if you're ever wondering what type of list you should pull, that's what we are pulling. And I love that list. That's like a golden list.
That's a good list, actually. So yeah, and I love that. So I really appreciate us, you know, going on here and kind of cleaning up the data thing. And again, a lot of people are sometimes aren't familiar with how the data is being presented. So I appreciate you giving me the time to explain. You know, especially in your market, it's a little tricky when you're in a non-disclosure state. A lot of people were confused because, again, we pulling records from all sorts of providers, and some providers are estimated values, as you guys saw, and then our MLS obviously is the most accurate values there. So just again, note, guys, depending on, you know, what county you're in, if you're like in California like I am, you can use public records and MLS records. The only difference is time frame, how fast MLS records go to the county and get recorded. So in our area, we like the MLS because we can get something that sold last week and county doesn't even have it yet. But in a non-disclosure state or non-disclosure county, then your thought process is different. I can't use public records only because MLS is the best one possible. So yeah, guys, again, at the end of the day, a lead is really a homeowner facing a predicament. You're the solutionist. You're not a real estate investor, even though we like to use that word. I like to think of you guys as the solution providers. So go into our system and try to find a predicament and solve that predicament. So yeah, with that said, my name is Burton.
At the end of the day, we're all problem solvers. You're
absolutely right, man. That's why I like the term real estate investors, but I mean, I like to call, really, I want to get the word real estate solutionist trending, man. I think that's what we really are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know some people out there are here to flip a buck. Nothing against that. Do your hustle, man. I love it. But you know, I love to hear the success stories, man. I love to hear, you know, yeah, we just helped this family, you know, not only like from being foreclosed on, but we found them a new place. I love hearing that. And so yeah, again, if we can trend that real estate solutionist thing, I mean, you guys, that's what you guys are, man. And I just want to emphasize that. Try to get out of that mind of being an investor and get into that mind of being a real estate solutionist. And I think you'll have much more fun with it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that speaks on the character of your company. Now, I want to gear more towards there. The reason why, guys, I even, you know, partnered with PropStream to bring you guys something, you know, solution, because their background is very strong. Their employees have, you know, it's just a strong ethics thing. You know what I mean? So it's, yes, they have data aggregation. I mean, yes, you can get a lot of information on somebody, but they respect the boundaries. They, you know, as an investor, you have to respect a seller's boundaries to where, you know, because they're going to ask you, where did you get my information from? And sure enough, somebody's going to say, PropStream. Well, what? You know how people are, right?
Yep.
Well, I got it from the internet, or I got it from PropStream, or I got it from somewhere else. But you know, it's huge, especially what you're talking about right now. The reason why I like to team up with other people and bring sponsors on board for my 2 RIAs that I have, I look at their ethics first, man. If their ethics don't align with my ethics, I mean, I'm gonna drop you quicker than a fly on the wall. So I mean, it is what it is. But we love PropStream. It's not because of we're an affiliate now. Listen, man, I'm not here to make a quick buck off of you guys. In fact, I give you guys a lot of tools for absolutely for free. 100% my content is free, right? YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. So the cool thing is this video will also go upload. It would be uploaded onto my YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you guys need to go out there, make sure you subscribe, because 1 year ago when somebody did a review of PropStream, it's not going to be the same as of today. So we want to make sure this video is a very accurate depiction of what PropStream can do, because I've seen a few videos on PropStream that are kind of the older version, right? 2 years old, 3 years old, because you guys are evolving every day, just like this business. You guys are changing every day, right? And the best part is you guys are listening to us. You guys are taking our, you know, our in consideration, right? You're taking what we have to say in consideration, and you're making your platform even better, which blows my mind. And that's what I love about you guys. So Burton, if you had any last comments, thoughts, please, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, just the last thing, if you guys obviously need any help, we do have a help section. Where office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We also have an exclusive PropStream user community. So if you're an active user, look us up on PropStream or search us, PropStream user community. Lots of existing users in that group sharing best practices one another. No sales, no promotions of everything. It's just strictly PropStream and PropStream only. So if you have any questions, notice any bugs, our admins, including myself, will get back to you in a reasonable time. And then, yeah, you guys can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. If you guys need any help, I'll try to get back to you if you send me a message. But with that, no, I mean, yeah, we're as transparent as possible. I mean, you might even hear me sometimes answering the phone calls when you call in. So if you guys have anything, let us help you understand our data. And yeah, take it from there. Have fun, guys. Make sure you're solving problems.
So all you viewers out there, if you have found value in this video, if you found like, hey, this could help me out, some of the information that was shared today, for example, the list that we pull, even the second mortgage, you know, note that he brought up could make you a potential extra 100 grand this year. So make sure you guys are smashing the like button, you're smashing the heart button. Make sure you guys are supporting. Go to runmycomps.com, sign up for a 7-day free trial. It's going to change your life, man. You're not going to be blowing up realtors anymore. It's not like realtors love it when you call them anyways. Leave them alone until you got a deal for them, right? That's the motto of a realtor. Don't call me until you got a listing. So now you guys will be able to run your own comps, okay? Burton, I really want to bring a lot of value to members of my group. We're growing. In about a month, we have over 2,000 members, and we're growing every single day. So I want to be able to do this call at least once a month. So that way, if users have any questions, you know, the cool thing is, you know, don't ask me because I'm not the expert in PropStream. All I know is it's made me, it's made us millions of dollars in sales. I mean, we're just freaking, it's about data, man. This whole game is about lead to speed, okay? Right? Speed to lead. And then it's about data aggregation. You got to have the right data. So I definitely appreciate you taking your time out on a Saturday evening at about 2 p.m., 1 p.m. Central Time. We're about an hour and 3 minutes into it. Time flew by so quickly. Everyone is asking different questions on my inbox, and then they're also asking us questions on Zoom. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, we got your questions. We got to let Burton go now. But if you guys have questions, go to runmycomps.com. Make sure you sign up, okay, on the platform. So it's $97 a month. I don't even get $97 a month, man. What the heck?
Yeah. I think you pay. I think you do.
I pay $99 a month.
Yeah, you are. All right. Yeah, but yeah. Well, see you later, guys.
We're gonna switch. We're gonna take this conversation to the side now. All right, guys. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Burton, thank you. Thank you,
anytime, guys,
for your time. We certainly appreciate it. Rana signing out. Peace out, guys.
Later, guys.